It's been a while, so let's see if I remember how to do this. So I did the tarot, hashtag tarot throwback, and you'll see in the, I'll incorporate it somewhere down below here. And, oh, hello and welcome. Yeah, like I said, I don't know if I remember how to do this, so I'm sorry. It might be comical. Comical is okay, right? Okay, here we go. This is my follow-up to the the hashtag tarot throwback. I don't know why I'm struggling with this. I'm just gonna look it up and copy and paste it below. But anyway, and I did it for a month. I set my mind to it, and I did it for a month, and I didn't even realize it was a month until I had gone on September 22nd. I went to journal because it was, my equinox, my little equinox. I do a little ritual for the different seasons. I did a little journaling about it, and then I saw that the previous page was the last notes I took were on this challenge. This challenge, for me, sometimes things just come to you at the right time, right? This came to me at the right time, and it was such good medicine for me. This, not really challenge, it's more like an exercise. And I don't view it as deprivation. For me, it was about just stripping everything back. And that's because I chose 1997, which, and it was to use only the decks I had in 1997 and I was using. Well, I'm not going to do the parade of decks because, to be honest, I forgot to take them down from the shelf. But I have a list, and I have the 2 tarot decks, so we can have visual cues for the 2 tarot decks that I used for the last month. But I put all my decks away, except for the decks that I owned and used in 1997. So divining like it's 1997. I used my tarot, my Rider tarot, my Morgan Greer, and then I had my Mythic tarot was out. Playing cards, runes, révélation intérieure, angel oracle, angel blessings, and karma cards. This is how it went. So the first week, I did use some of these decks. So the ones I didn't use playing cards at all the last month. I didn't even touch them. Which is pretty much in keeping, I think, with 1997, because by that time, I think that year I didn't even read much with playing cards. I didn't touch my playing cards. I didn't touch the Mythic Tarot. Mythic Tarot has since gone to the purgatory box. I didn't touch karma cards. I only used them once. And I used Angel Oracle, Angel Blessings, and Révélation Intérieure. I used them the first week. That was it. I realized after the first week that I wasn't feeling it with these Oracle decks because they belong in a place and time where I was going through a really rough patch, and thankfully at this moment I'm not in that place where I'm filled with where there's so much uncertainty that I feel drawn to using these. So I put them away. And I just ended up the rest of the month, because it was from August 22nd to September 22nd. I primarily used my tarot deck, my tarot cards, sorry, and runes. And runes were for my spiritual practice. So not even like really for divination. They were more for magical work. Anyway. So I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was. Because prior to this exercise, I was using the same deck for like 2.5 years, and I was Thoth, and that was my daily draw or my weekly draw. That was my go-to. And I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was that it was very easy to pick up these guys, like exactly where we left off. You know what I mean? It was very easy for me to reconnect to these two. They do the job, and I'll talk about that a little bit too. They do the job. So the real so they're like there's a not the real, but like there's a the real lessons of this exercise I never would have imagined. And I'll start with some of the basic ones. First of all is those, like there's a, I think it's my last video, I talk about how I cleaned up this deck. It's still energetically really heavy. It's still heavy like a brick, but it's clean now. And if you look at some if you look at some videos, like some previous videos recently, there's somewhere in frames you can actually see the edges of what they used to look like, and this is incredible. This is incredible. And they don't stick, and the edges are soft instead of they were like really they feel velvety instead of plasticky like they felt, because they were just filthy. I'm even ashamed to admit, but here we are. I guess I could show you some cards while I talk. So I was surprised because I put these down in 2017, and I bought a Centennial, and that's what I was using to read for the public. And then, I was still reading in person. I was reading in public. I was reading for the public with these prior to 2017. But I felt, I've told the story before. I'm not gonna rehash the same stories over and over again. I'm starting to sound like an old lady. You know what I mean. I have relatives. They tell the same 7 stories all over again. Anyway, over and over. I'm one of them. Anyway, so Morgan Greer. This one is still widely available. You know what I mean? Like US Games is still printing this one. It even comes in a tin for those of you who like the tarot in a tin. Oh my god, I'm just looking at the image on the screen, and yeah, they don't look this good in person. Neither do I. All right, so I thought I'd just flip through some cards. I didn't know what I was doing there. Like I said, I'm out of practice. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm gonna babble. So I use this one. And at first I didn't think I was going to last the week. I'll be honest, I didn't think I was going to last the week. But then something happened. Something happened that surprised me. It was like I slipped right into the stream of, I stopped looking at the deck, and I was looking at tarot. Let me repeat that. I stopped paying attention to what deck I was using, and it wasn't about the deck, it was about tarot. The same thing happened with this one. This is a facsimile. I call it facsimile. It's basically the same deck I had back in 1986, but this is not the actual physical same deck that I had back then. It's just a plaid back, okay? And it's got this really nice, this really nice softer coloring or whatever, and I still don't like it. See, I get it when people say, "Oh, this was my first deck, but it's not my favorite." No, it's not my favorite either. You know what I mean? Like, there are others that are my favorites. These two are not my favorites. But you know what they are? They're tools I really know how to use. They're tools I have a lot of experience with. So I don't even notice. This is what freaked me out. Not freaked me out, but you know what I mean? This is what I noted was, whichever one I was reading, I can't tell you which one I was reading. I didn't even notice anymore. I didn't notice what deck I was using because I was just focusing on tarot. This exercise had, first and foremost, took the emphasis away from decks and the different decks, the different imagery. Stepping back completely and going back to basics. I wasn't watching tarot content because I wasn't watching tarot content on the internet in 1997. It didn't even exist, and if it did, I didn't know about it. So, if there were news groups or whatever that people were talking about it, I'm sure there were, but I didn't know about it. So, stripping back, putting all the decks away, using just the stuff that I had in 1997, also put me in the headspace to strip down and to get rid of all the excess in other aspects of my life. I didn't do daily draws. Because because daily draws is something I started when I started acquiring different kinds of decks, like different versions of the tarot. I think I started daily draws. I'm pretty sure it was the Marielle that started me on the daily draws, because I was getting to know it, to see what the card, my experiential meaning of the cards of that deck. But prior to 2017, I didn't do that. So I didn't do it. I didn't do it on purpose. I just didn't do it because I'm divining like it's 1997. Simplifying my divination practice to just using these two decks shut out a lot of noise. And I didn't realize how much noise I had in my head about the tools that I use. These, it's always a shared experience, and I am not saying anything against the whole, community aspect of this platform and what we're doing here. But when I have a divination tool or a divinatory tool, when I have a spiritual tool, and every time I see it or pick it up, I think of someone else because it's their favorite, and they're not a person that I know in real life. It's just content that I've seen on the internet. That to me is thought pollution. It really is. I learned from this experiment how polluted my thoughts were of other people that I don't even know in real life. And it made me think of a lot of the decks I got rid of, and I got rid of a lot, people, a lot. A lot of them were acquired because of wanting that shared experience with someone whose content I enjoy. And all of them that were I got rid of because I viewed them as that other person's deck. And that's because words are magic, people. Okay? Words are magic. And I'm gonna visit words are magic in another video as well. Hang on, just some coffee. But in the case of stripping things down to what were essentially originally mine for decades, it helped me understand that all the decks I got rid of were other people's decks. And then there's the FOMO, the fantasy self, and all that other stuff. And now I still have a fantasy self. My fantasy self only has one deck, one tarot deck to rule them all, and doesn't have, a bunch of oracle decks. But that's a fantasy self. I don't aspire to that. I'm never going to be that. I don't want to be that. It's a fantasy self. It's a fantasy self, and it's also, again, it's thought pollution, because I know someone that only has one deck, and they're very dear to me. I wish I could be that person, but I'm not. I never even was, because I had two. Right? I used to have one, and when I had one, I had this one, and I had playing cards. So I had two. I used to have one, playing cards. No, I used to also have, okay, not here. I used to have the Neapolitan playing cards and what we called American cards, which are regular playing cards, like, what you play bridge or poker with. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but I just got lost in my own, bullshit that I'm babbling over here. I apologize. Again, it's going to take a while to get back into the swing of things. But what I'm trying to say is that thought pollution, and I don't mean it in the sense that I have something against the people or the thought pollution had to go, and I'd already expressed how I'm not watching tarot content anymore because I can't. Before, I couldn't watch it because I couldn't tell the difference between what I thought and what other people were saying. You know what I mean? And that was evident when I would go out and I would buy a deck because, I kept seeing it everywhere on TarotTube. And then when I got it, it was like nothing to me. It didn't look like anything to me. And I instead of questioning why I bought something that isn't something instead of questioning why did you buy something you wouldn't normally buy, I was questioning what was wrong with me that I didn't like it. That's thought pollution. I don't know. I don't even thought pollution. I'm always making stuff up, man. That's my favorite phrase now. I just made that up. Thought pollution. Well, I didn't make it up. I made it up. This past month I've been thinking about thought pollution. Let me see if I scribbled anything else that I wanted to share with you. Oh, but this whole stripping back and only using these two decks for 30 days, man, this, what I wanted to also talk about is that it is spilled over into other aspects of my life. It spilled over into every aspect of my metaphysical world. Okay? Every aspect of my metaphysical and spiritual life. I did not only strip back to these, I also ended up stripping back or stripping away from my spiritual practice things that I didn't care about anymore. New things I had adopted that just stuck around because they were there, not because they offered any value. So I let those things go. But I also let things go. I looked at my sacred space and I was able to see the outward expression of my inner world in my sacred space. And I saw, for the first time in a really long time, what reflects me and my beliefs and my practices. And I didn't don't get excited. I didn't do like a massive declutter or anything like that. I just moved some things around and put them away because they don't mean anything to me. But I was able to see that everything here is important to me. Whenever I needed to, and I use my tarot for divination. I also use it for communicating with spirits. It's a spiritual tool for me. And it was interesting that because I could only use these two, it was like, okay, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They're tarot. They'll do the job. It's fine. It's okay. But I had adopted all these other things the last 5 years. I've adopted certain aesthetics that I enjoy. I enjoy my nature decks. I enjoy my fairy, earth spirits decks. So here I was for 30 days having to use these guys. And it made me, instead of relying on an artist's imagery, an artist's interpretation, it made me go inward, where I had this experience where I had no cards. There I was meditating and doing everything in my inner world because I didn't want to use this imagery. I needed to tap into that world, and that world is inside. It's our inner world. And I realized how much I was relying on external representations of my inner world. Am I going to get rid of my Brian Froud's fairies? No. But what I'm saying is that I wondered if I didn't get a little lazy, looking to art. I learned a lot about myself, about the bullshit that I say. Oh, well, I bought into the whole I have to have different decks for to explore different imagery of the same archetypes. That's utter bullshit. Maybe not to you, but to me it is. I found out that I'm full of shit. I don't believe anything that I'm thinking or saying when it comes to this kind of stuff, because me, it was just an excuse to get things that I really don't need. Because I don't use them. I don't use them. And I also, I just gave you an example. I explored my inner world without external visual cues because I had to put them away because I wanted to play a game and try this challenge or this experiment for a month. I learned a lot about myself. I also learned what I already knew, because I don't reach for these if I don't have to, is that these are always going to be with me. They're always going to be with me because, especially this one, this is the actual historical one that's always been with me, and this is standing in the place of the one that I had, because they've always been with me. But I'm going to tell you, the first thing I'm going to do after I finish this video is put them away. I'm going to put them away, and I'm probably going to spend a little more time with my inner world before I reach for one of my decks that is an external representation, and so another artist's representation or interpretation of an inner world. So that's what I learned from my throwback tarot experiment. Just to recap, these are not my favorites. They never will be. So I get it. I get it now when people say that, oh, I started with deck whatever, but it's not my favorite. And I quickly moved on when I found this other one. But it was good. It's good to come home. This was like visiting my hometown. For me, whenever I've gone home, it's been bittersweet. Because, well, I left. So, I left because I wanted to leave when I left, right? But it's always bittersweet when I go home. When I visit my hometown. It's nice to go back. It's nice to see what's still the same. It's nice to see that, what is still the same there, but I have changed. It's great to visit with old friends, but it sure is good to be home. So I'll be putting this away, and I'll be reaching for my Old Faithful that I've been using for the last 2.5 years, my Thoth. If you did this exercise as well, share in the comments down below if you want to what your experience was. I know I have friends who didn't last. I think it's because I set myself up. It's because it's like, I jump into everything with both feet. It's like, it wasn't just, oh, I'm going to pick this year because I like the decks that I have. No, I think I was already I was looking for a framework to strip everything back, go back to my roots, and start over from there. Go back, revisit my roots, and then, climb back up. And the next month, I think I'm going to spend it, again, weeding out the things that don't work for me. And again, this whole going back to my roots has spilled over into other aspects of my life, in my routines, in my non-spiritual and my non-tarot and non-magical practice routines. I'm talking about my mundane life. And it has really cleared. This was really good. It really cleared my mind. It was like going outside, getting some fresh air, and just clearing my mind. And I'm going to stay in this place where I am not taking in all the external output. I did just a little tour of what's available retail, what's going on, and I'm not interested. I'm not interested in all the theme decks and whatever. It looks like, as per usual, the money-making machine the marketing machine has figured out that some of us are marks for buying things just because they're tarot. And there's a hell of a lot more garbage out there, in my personal opinion. and I'm just going to stay away from it. I think I'm going to do a similar kind of experiment with myself for the next month. Instead of scaling it back to just the original tarot decks, I think I'm going to go back to my original rituals that I used to do. And they were just very streamlined. They were very basic, and they were very powerful. And I want to go back to those and see what that's like. All right, I talked for half an hour and said probably absolutely nothing. But it was very nice spending this time with you, where I'm talking to a camera, but I feel like I'm talking to someone. And thank you for being there and watching and listening, because if you weren't there, I'd be talking to myself. But I am, right? All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. And wherever you are in the world, I'm wishing you a beautiful day. Bye-bye.